What's up, co-counsels? It's been a while since I've been here. All right, so let us catch up with Kare Read. You guys know that I could not watch this yesterday because I had mediation, and then today there was no court. So I suppose this is a perfect time to attempt to catch up. I don't actually know why there was no court today because I tuned in. I tuned in very early, and apparently there was no court. All right, let's get into this. I have no idea where to start with this cross-examination. Let me just try and find a spot where I think, oh, there we have surveillance. All right, I think, okay, let's do this. Let's start here.
Through court proceedings.
Right, what are they? We give you the nature of what you've learned.
Right.
Yes.
Sustained. We need
What's
a time.
up, Allie girl?
Sure. When did you learn of these?
Did you have a good weekend? I'm all over the place, girl. I did not watch yesterday, and today there was no court. I actually did not watch on Friday either because I was very busy on Friday. So I'm just trying to play catch up. I'm trying to divide my attention between Kare Read and Diddy. Diddy has a lot going on. Diddy has a lot going on. So we already started with Kare Read, though, so I'll stick to Kare Read. But Diddy has a lot going on.
Of this information?
I mean, if you want to switch, we can certainly switch, okay? Because I think it's just you and I. There's somebody else in here. But if you want to switch, we can switch. You know how chaotic I am. You know how chaotic I am.
That was
What's the
July.
question?
You've learned.
Yes.
What's the question?
What accusations have you learned with Chris and Julie Albert or the Albert family?
I've learned of accusations. I don't know the extent of how familiar they are.
What accusations have you learned?
Through trial or through court proceedings.
Right, what are they? We give you the nature of what you've learned.
Yes.
Sustained. We need a time frame.
Sure. When did you learn of these of this information?
That was July of 2023, I believe.
And what were the circumstances in which you gained this knowledge?
There were accusations that Michael Proctor had familial friendship with these
What's up,
individuals,
Angie?
but the
All right,
accusation.
let's see. Allie's saying that she is good with whatever. We can do a bit of Karen and a bit of Diddy. We can. I was really gonna stick to Kare Read, but Diddy has too much going on because yesterday was opening statement, and I did not go in depth, right? But I've heard or read a few headlines, watched a few videos, and the feds jumped right into it because it's not one of these Kare Read trials where they're starting off with a firefighter, paramedic, Timothy something, whatever his name is. That's not how they started off with this Fed case. They started off with the major evidence. So from that perspective, and here's the other thing. Before jury selection started, I believe it was probably sometime last year when we talked a little bit about Diddy, I said that the defense, they have to pretty much, bring those little girls in court. They have to, kind of parade his daughters. I suppose there's a caveat, kind of what A$AP Rocky and Rihanna were doing, parading Rose and Riot or whatever their names are. So that's what I had in mind. I did not anticipate the possibility that the testimony would be too graphic for these little girls to bear. I did not think about that because I'm just thinking like a lawyer. I'm not thinking from the perspective of, I don't know, a social worker or a victim's advocate or, Yeah. So let's watch a bit of Karen and then we'll definitely switch over. Okay. Allie, we just have to switch over then because Allie said that the Diddy case is chaotic. Yeah, they jumped right into it. I just did not expect them. Apparently, Cassie testified. I worked late tonight. I worked late. Yeah, apparently Cassie already testified. She's on the stand. I was like, what the hell? They're not playing around. All right, Benji, I'm glad to hear that. Okay, let's just get past. There's surveillance footage that was being discussed on Reddit. I did not really go in depth. I believe it was Higgins. Yeah, this is it. Let's watch a bit of this just so I understand where the defense is going, and then we'll switch over to Diddy right here. Actually, what I was planning on doing, Ali probably won't be able to join because Ali is a different time zone. Actually, now that I think about it, Benji is definitely I think Ali's mountain time, Benji's Pacific time, and but I was considering coming up here in the early morning and talking about Diddy for I don't know, about an hour, because I usually have like an hour and a half, um just waiting to go to work. So we'll see. Probably not this week, but as of next week, I might actually come up here first thing in the morning. That would be around like 7. That's too early though. Yeah. But you can watch the replay. Anyway, get on. I get
Your, with
excited.
permission, I'd ask that what's been marked as GG, at least the first video,
Okay.
be published for the jurors.
All right, so there are 4 videos on this flash drive?
One video, 4 different camera angles as it's set from the one video.
Are you ready to see this now? I thought you wanted to review it.
I'll agree, and if I have a problem, I'll let the court know. No problem.
What are
Alright,
you
so-
saying, Brennan?
Set
Speak up.
from the one video.
Are you ready to see this now? I thought you wanted to review it.
I'll agree, and if I have a problem, I'll let the court know. No problem.
All right, so
What do you mean you'll agree and if you have a problem? So you want to have a problem after the video is already out and the jury's what the hell?
first one, the first camera angle?
Correct.
Okay,
It's one video, but 4 different angles.
all right. We just have to keep a record. That's why I'm
Understood.
asking all these
It's a
questions.
little complicated, I get it.
All right, we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And this is, Your Honor, just for the record, actually, let me do it this way. Sergeant, would you agree that we can call this the rear lot main side at Canton PD, just for identification purposes?
Sure, if you'd like. I don't know which side this is, so I can't argue with you about the location. So
Okay.
I'll agree with you that we can call it that.
Great. It looks like a parking lot. There's cars.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just for purposes of, so it doesn't get complicated, we'll call this rear lot
just ask
main
the
side.
question,
That doesn't
please.
mean anything unless you adopt it. So just for identification purposes.
Thank you.
If we could move to runtime 1:26:32. Okay. With the court's permission, may I play it at this point?
Okay,
Thank you. Stop. Did you see a car pass in front?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I see a car. Oh, okay.
Stop. Did you see a car pass in front?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What kind of car did that look like to you?
It looked like a 2-door Jeep Wrangler with a plow on it.
Okay, let's go ahead and play it.
Oh, hold on.
It looked like a 2-door Jeep Wrangler.
Where's
Thank
the
you.
plow? Oh, it does have a snow plow.
Stop. Did you see a car pass in front?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What kind of car did that look like to you?
It looked like a 2-door Jeep Wrangler with a plow on it.
Okay, let's go ahead and play it.
Okay.
Okay, stop. Sergeant, did you, during the course of your investigation, learn whether or not anybody associated with your investigation had a 2-door Jeep Wrangler with a plow?
I thought that was
Yes.
a Higgins
Who is that?
video.
Mr. Brian Higgins.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
I
Let's
guess
go ahead and play this.
Higgins video. Oh, okay. All right. So Ali and Benji both want to know. I think in order to start off on a clean slate, I would probably do it on days when we are not covering Kare Read. I think that makes ordinarily I probably would go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday in the mornings. Let's test drive that next week. We'll give it a test drive next week, and if it's too much, then I'll let you guys know that we need to cut back on some times. But that would be 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern time. All right, come on, next question. Oh, somebody's walking.
Okay, stop. Sir, do you see a person who appears to have alighted from the car,
Yes.
from the Jeep? Sergeant, if you could turn your attention to the screen on the right. Does that appear to be the location of the person that you're describing?
That's the individual that came out of the vehicle, yes.
Okay. I know it's super blurry. May not be able to at this point. Do you know who that is?
I do not know.
Okay. Let's go ahead and play it. Okay, stop. All right. Did you see the person walk off the screen?
Yes.
Did it appear that that person had something in his or her hands?
Possibly, yes.
Okay.
I was going to go back, but I'll leave it alone.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Okay. Okay. Let's fast forward while you're having a moment.
Before this is played, Sergeant, do you recognize what's depicted in this photograph?
I do not know.
Okay. Let's go ahead and play this.
What the cute?
Stop. What do you see on the video at this point?
An individual crossing the frame with a couple of cars parked, one of which has a plow on it.
Does it look like an exterior video?
Yes.
Does that appear to be an exterior video if you don't know exactly where an exterior video of Canton PD?
From the facilities, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And describe the person that you see in the foreground at the bottom of the screen.
Looks like a gremlin.
Appears to be wearing a black sweatshirt, a hooded sweatshirt.
Larger in stature, smaller in stature, can you tell?
Medium,
I'd be speculating because there's no comparison, but possibly larger. I don't know.
Okay, let's go ahead and play it. And that's it for that.
Okay.
Now, if we could play the next video. By the way, can we agree before we move off of this, just for identification purposes, can we agree to call this rear lot cruiser side as opposed to rear lot main side, just to keep them separate?
Same as last time. I'm not aware or familiar where that camera is, so I cannot.
I thought it was cool.
I cannot argue with you nor adopt. But if for identification purposes only, we can agree on that.
Can you see from where you are, and I know the answer to this, can you see from where you are the timestamp on the bottom of this?
No.
I
Your
cannot.
Honor, with the court's permission, it's very, very small. Is it possible to ask the witness to adjourn from the witness stand just to get close enough to see if he can read the?
You can't increase the size of it?
Maybe we can. I'm not the tech guy. Mr. Ward?
Sorry. Okay.
Magic.
Okay, 22.
Wow. I didn't even know he could do that. Okay. Can you read that?
Yes, it says rear lot cruiser side.
Okay. What about the time?
The timestamp reads 1:27:41.
I
Do you
cannot
see a
see
date?
that. Oh, here.
Yes.
What is that date?
1/29/2022.
Thank you.
Good.
This was my fault. Your Honor, if we could move back to rear lot main side, I'd like to do the same thing. I failed to ask for the time and date on that one.
You don't have to explain yourself. You just have to do it. They're taking forever. I'm ready to get into
Mr.
some
Wolf,
men.
please.
I might actually have to edit my the title of my video.
Is it possible to see
I'll
from
do that
there
later on.
the time and date?
Yes, the time is 1:27:32
Does anybody see an old bag out in these YouTube streets or no? And Jerome.
a.m. and the date is 1/29/2022.
Thank you. Okay, if we can move to the third clip.
Okay.
If we could start, Mr. Wolk, by enhancing with the court's permission the time and date, let's just start with that. Do you see what the timestamp designates this camera angle to be?
Nope.
It appears to be church side, and I can't read the third.
All right, let's get into some.
120.
I'm gonna fast forward.
Stop.
Okay.
Do you see a person in that video?
I do.
Although it's somewhat blurry, can you describe that individual for us, please?
Individual wearing dark clothing, possibly. No, that's the best I could do, really.
Okay. Does it appear, given what you've seen in terms of the time of the main side, cruiser side, and now this exterior church side, does that appear to be the same person moving through on the outside of Kenton PD?
It does, yes.
Okay. And what are we looking at here, by the way? What is this door he's about to walk into?
I'd be guessing. I was never present on that side of the Sally Port.
Understood.
I don't know.
Let's go ahead and play this.
Okay. All
Okay.
right, Mr. Higgins.
And for the final clip,
That's it.
if we could go down to the timestamp and date.
Okay, I hope you're
little
laying
bit
a
of
real
smoke,
foundation here, Jackson.
Can you see what that is designated as that camera angle?
Yes, it says first floor corridor, and the time is 1:28:03 a.m. on the 29th of January, 2022.
Okay. Is this the corridor version or video that you did have some recollection of?
Yes, this is, yes.
Okay, if we can go ahead and play this.
All right.
Stop. Do you
Okay,
recognize
so Benji, let me just give you some background, okay? Because I do not think, if I remember correctly, you did not watch the first Kare Read trial. So this individual over here, or have you been watching this trial even when I'm not covering? If not, this individual here, I believe, is Brian Higgins. He is said to be, or at least the defense are arguing that he's a third-party culprit in this. What that means is that they're arguing that it's him and another Brian Albert, that caused the death of the decedent. Okay. So Brian Higgins, I believe that was on Thursday. I don't think it was Friday, because Friday, I don't think I watched this trial. Yeah. I believe it was on Thursday when the officer Buchanan, he read text conversations or messages between Brian Higgins and Kare Read. Some of them were flirtatious. Somebody thought somebody was hot. So this is the individual, and he's part of law enforcement. I want to say police officer, but every person in law enforcement is not a police officer.
person in this video?
So if I have my timeline correctly, because I'm going off of my memory from the first trial, he returned to, I believe it was Kenton Police Station after the decedent had died. That's if I have my timeline correctly.
It appears to be Mr. Brian Higgins.
Okay. And what is he wearing? Describe it for the jurors.
Black sweatshirt with some sort of logo on the front.
Okay,
It appears to
Alan.
be blue jeans and
Well, the next time you see Jerome, tell him I said hello. Okay, so hopefully that made sense to you, Benji. Hopefully it made sense because I know that was that was cursory, but that is my best explanation.
Shoes with a white trim.
And is the hood up or down on
Ali, if you have a better explanation for Benji and you have time, you can definitely hop on here.
the sweatshirt?
It's up.
Okay, let's go ahead and play this.
Okay. Are they gonna show what it was
I
doing?
have just a moment. Could you pause this, Mr. Wolf?
Okay, why are we pausing? Oh, consulting with Kare Read.
Can you make note of the time as it's paused right here?
128:16.
Do you want me to say it again or
Yes,
write
sir.
it down?
Yes, sir.
The time is 1:28:16
970.
a.m.
Okay, and if we could just continue playing this video.
But are they trying to see how long he was in that room for? Okay.
It is playing. Stop. Now, if you could take a look at the time now.
For a minute, maybe less than that. Yeah, a little over a minute.
Okay, what's that time?
1:29:42
Okay.
a.m.
And if we could go ahead and go forward. Is it still playing, Mr. Wolk? Okay. If we could take a look at the time one more time.
134.
Now it's, you want me to say it?
Yes, sir.
1:34:12 a.m.
And in the time, just so the record's clear, in the time between you saying 128:16 to 134:12,
What is the
in
question?
the time between you saying 128:16
Okay, 128:16. Okay.
134:12, 6 minutes has not gone by, correct?
Just under 6, I believe, yeah.
Well, 6 minutes for us in real time,
Oh, in real time, yeah, no.
it is not. So it
Sorry.
appears that the camera jumped, or the time jumped.
The time difference from what was displayed is approximately 6 minutes, yes.
Okay, which is much further than, much longer than the time we've actually been looking at the video, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so it appears that it may be motion activated and it just jumped.
That's a possibility, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and continue playing this. And stop. Do you see someone in the screen now?
Yes.
And one more time, I know this is laborious, one more time if we could clock the time.
Okay, so Ali thinks that last week they read the text messages between Karen and Brian Higgins. It was pretty interesting. You would like hearing those messages. I believe that was wasn't that on Thursday? Was it? I don't remember. I know that I listened to, oh shoot, I have notes. Girl, you have notes. Where's my legal pad? I have notes. I actually do have notes. I should have pulled it out. That is right, Ali. So on one of those days, I watched and I took notes. I know for a fact that I didn't watch on Friday though. It was in the background, but I was not focused. So, okay, so Benji wants to know that who does Brian Higgins benefit more, the defense or the state? So Brian Higgins would benefit the defense, and that's why they are cross-examining this officer about Brian Higgins, because I expect Brian Higgins to be with the prosecution. I don't know. Brennan has been doing some stuff. Brennan has been doing some stuff. So I am the prosecution actually has to call him because I'm trying to consider whether the prosecution will be calling Brian Higgins or not. Again, Brandon has done some different, he's taken a different path from the first prosecution. But the reason why the prosecution definitely has to call Brian Higgins. And the reason for that is because the defense is creating a reasonable doubt with Brian Higgins. The only way that the prosecution can overcome that or explain away his conduct is to have him on the stand. What the defense is arguing is that Brian Higgins had some sort of interest in offing, I think, what's his name? John O'Keefe. And the reason for that, I believe it's really attenuated. It's you have to you have to jump through several hoops, but it's something about it's not a real relationship. But from testimony from the first trial and sometime last week, during the text messages, as the text messages were being read, Kare Read alerted Brian Higgins that John O'Keefe, the decedent, is aware of, think, it's either a kiss that was caught on camera that the decedent confronted Kare Read about. So this kiss was between Brian Higgins and Kare Read, and obviously the defense is trying to argue that he had a motive to off the decedent. It might be jealousy. Maybe he wanted Kare Read to himself, something along those lines. So to answer your question, the reason why we're looking at this surveillance footage is pretty much to cast suspicions around Brian Higgins.
Can you see that?
No, it's really blurry for me.
Dang, he has no vision.
There we go.
Yes, now I can see it. 1:34:15, if I'm not mistaken. AM.
Okay, fair enough. And let's go ahead and play this all the way through.
He failed his vision test. Okay.
Okay. Who did that appear to be walking away from the camera in this shot?
I'm not certain. I would be suspecting or guessing if I gave you an answer, but I'm not certain who that is.
As best you can determine, does he have the same stature? I know you can't see his face. Same stature, same clothing, jeans, shoes with white stripe around it, dark hooded sweatshirt. Does he appear to be the same person as Brian Higgins?
It does appear that way, yes.
Okay. Is that it? Okay. There's one more clip
Okay.
that I'd ask you to look at on the same GG device.
What is a clip? Is this the port?
Okay. What do you see in this video?
Appears to be the church side Sally port, and an individual came out of the door.
Okay. And can we highlight the time, please, or increase the size? What time do you see there?
1:34:40 a.m.
Okay. If we go ahead and play this through.
Okay.
Pause. Does it appear from this video that the person has anything in his hand?
I'm sorry, can you play that again? I wasn't looking at the hand, but
Sure.
Okay. Or a phone, maybe, or they're holding their hand
I really
to
can't tell.
Okay.
the ear. All right, so it's going to become clear, Benji, as testimony goes on. So there were phone calls. I do not know that they were, or that testimony is in quite yet in this second trial. But there were phone calls between Brian Higgins and the Alberts around the time that they're claiming that somebody butt dialed somebody during, I don't know, I'll leave it there. But I think if I'm following Alan Jackson or the defense, to me, it appears the focus on the time it appears that they're trying to link Brian Higgins being at the police department to the times when these phone calls were placed, basically to show that they had some type of conversation or they were in cahoots with each other. Okay, I think that's where it's leading.
There should be another video of the rear lock cruiser side. Let's take a look at that.
Okay.
Pause. What do you see in that video?
It appears to be an individual wearing a black beanie hat, black dark colored sweatshirt with some design on it, and something illuminating by his face.
He said something
Can we
illuminating.
enhance the time, please?
Okay, not a phone, it's just illuminating.
What time is that?
It says 1:34 and 53 seconds
Okay.
in the morning, a.m.
And if you could move the screen over to the individual. Mr. Walt. Does that appear to be the same person?
It could possibly be, yeah.
And does it appear as something in his hand up to his face, the right side of his face or ear?
Yes.
What do you think that is?
It's consistent with a cellular device, possibly a phone or a tablet.
Okay. If we can move on, please. Play that through.
Is
And I
that
believe
it?
there's one more video.
All right, I'm trying to get to Diddy.
And Your Honor, this
Come on
one
now.
is a little longer. This is about 10 minutes.
Okay.
With the court's permission, I'd like to play this through.
Okay, what are they doing? I don't want to watch cars.
Please stop. Do
Okay,
you see a person in the
there's
video
vehicle.
walking from screen right to screen left?
Yes.
Did that person appear to have something in his right hand?
Quickly take a look at these
I
comments.
can't
Hold
tell. I
on.
can't see his right hand.
Okay. When he first walked into the screen, could you tell?
Okay.
I couldn't know. I'm sorry.
Mr. Walt, could we back that up with the court's permission about 2 seconds?
Oh, no, they're just complaining about the judge. We're
Did it appear
not,
as something?
we're not going to entertain that. All right, let's fast forward to Diddy because I'm on a time constraint here. I don't want to be up here too late. Let's just jump to Diddy. I was actually going to do this in the morning, but it saves me. So it saves me. All right, let's get into it.
As I speak right now, Cassandra Ventura has taken the stand. Now, unfortunately, in this case, in a
Listen, folks, this trial, from a defense perspective, in all honesty, I have questions. I've expressed doubts about the defense. Unless, here's the thing though, that is the terrible part about, it's federal court. So sure enough, they're not going to allow a camera in there. But I'm more interested in the cross-examination of Cassie from the perspective of whether the defense actually has anything on her, anything that attacks her credibility, anything about, they cannot necessarily attack her. They can attack her character to a certain extent, but they cannot argue that she was promiscuous or loose or anything that has to do with some of these allegations. Because again, that surveillance footage from the hotel and the testimony that's expected out of Cassie, I don't know what the defense strategy is with this case. I don't know.
a federal case, there are no cameras in the courtroom. There is no audio in the courtroom.
Right.
But we are going to do our best to report to you in real time what is happening
come on,
with her
Jesse.
testimony and analyzing her testimony in real time.
Okay.
And we're going to also be taking your questions about this testimony, about the case in general.
Listen, if I did not have a real job, my behind would have been camping out there. I'd be one of the first people out there, okay? Waiting to get in the courtroom so I could see this for myself, because this is a big trial.
As it progresses. So if you
Let me think though. You guys know I don't stop talking. I'm just trying to think about the biggest trials of the year, okay? Initially, I thought it was Kare Read because it's a retrial. And then I was like, okay, maybe it's Brian Kohlberg. I think Kohlberger might actually be the biggest trial of the year, but then you have Diddy. So maybe it's a tie. Maybe it's a
You
three-way
have a
tie.
question, submit it on YouTube. We will answer it here
All right,
on
come on,
air.
Darcy.
I'm not going to do it alone. I have with me here in studio Rich Schoenstein, trial attorney. It's great to see you, Rich. Thanks for jumping here so quickly. Really appreciate it.
Glad to be here. Big day in this trial.
Right.
This is a big day because she is victim number one in this case. I think it would be fair to say we probably wouldn't have criminal charges if it wasn't for Cassandra Ventura filing her lawsuit in November of 2023.
And even when that when the Cassie lawsuit came out, and I heard that Diddy was going to settle, I'm like, it's game down. It's over. It is over. And we've seen the same thing happen with Shannon Sharp, where one individual files a lawsuit and he puts 10 million on the table. I was like, it's over. A lot more people are going to come out.
We all know that the videotape of her purportedly being beaten
That's
by
it.
Sean Combs in 2016
Oh, no.
changed the course of this entire legal saga. It came up a lot yesterday.
Yeah, Ali, I believe Westmoreland, she's the latest addition. I believe she joined last week. I do not know what value they add to the case, frankly. Shout out to Westmoreland, though, because I really like her. Brian Steele, I'm like, yeah, he's okay. He's okay, but I do like Westmoreland. I just do not know what value they're going to add to the case. And the reason for that is because the feds have been working on this case for an extended period of time. The folks that Diddy has, if you're going with Mark Agnifilo, these are people that have practiced in that same jurisdiction for extended periods of time. So they are definitely the best attorneys that Diddy can have. I always have, I think you guys have seen me make this argument before. I think that defendants tend to do better when they hire attorneys that are in fact from that specific jurisdiction, because they will be privy to the local rules of that courthouse. Okay. Again, they're coming in on this case way late. This is late. If you're still trying to figure out your defense strategy at this point, it's late. It's late. I don't know what value they add, but there might be a reason why the defense thought that they needed them.
He came up a lot
To
yesterday.
me, Diddy having Brian Steele and Westmoreland is similar to Kare Read having Victoria George, or whatever her name is. Victoria George, again, I guess that's an unfair equivalent, and that's because Westmoreland is badass. Okay, Brian Steele is definitely good at his job as well, and they are criminal defense attorneys. So I suppose I cannot make that comparison because Sarah George has only been licensed for 2 years or something along those lines, and she does civil work. And you guys have seen me talk about civil attorneys doing criminal work. We've seen it with, what's the man's name? I don't know. The attorney that represented Gotti, and he just was not good. He did not know what he was doing. So
Yesterday, and now
Hold on,
her
we need to get through
testifying
this.
for the prosecution. I think a fair argument is this case either rises or falls with her testimony. So
okay,
what is
so
she?
Ellie says that she thinks they were added because of the RICO. Maybe. Here's the thing, though. Let's move on. Let's leave the YSL trial alone. I'm gonna leave the YSL trial alone. Let's move on.
Testified to so far? Well, first of all, she's quite pregnant. She's about 8.5 months, 9
Now,
months
Weinstein,
pregnant.
there we go.
She's 38 years old. She explained that she was with Sean Combs for 10 years. We're talking about a 17-year age difference. She admitted that during the course of their relationship, he introduced her to certain sex acts.
Sheesh.
She asked to describe the relationship she had with him. Quote, there were violent arguments that would usually result in some sort of physical abuse, dragging, different things of that nature. Again, why is this important? He's charged with sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. He's charged with racketeering conspiracy, a criminal enterprise, underlying crimes like sex trafficking, kidnapping, arson, bribery, obstruction, and also transporting sex workers for purposes of prostitution. She went on to say that he would stomp her in the head if she was down. There was frequent violence. She would have black eyes. She would have bruises. She was asked by the prosecution to describe what a freak off was. And she said, quote, "It basically entails the hiring of an escort and setting up this experience so that I could perform for Sean. It involved Combs being able to watch with me, the other person, and actually direct us on what we were doing. Eventually, it became a job for me, pretty much." And by the way, this comes after the testimony.
I don't know what to say about this stuff.
Of a male performer who says he was hired by Cassandra Ventura and Sean Combs to have sex with Cassie in front of Sean Combs. She described
Okay,
how—
so I'm just thinking from a defense perspective, I guess you use that point. Again, we don't know what cross-examination looked like. I'm going to have to take a closer look at this. Couldn't do it yesterday because yesterday was a big day for me, okay? Just from a defense perspective. So if this first witness is testifying that he was hired by the defendant and the alleged victim, this is a good point to for the defense to exploit, in the sense that they can argue that Cassie was in fact doing this voluntary, especially if she had some type of power to hire, or if she had some type of say-so in terms of who the performer will be. I think that's a little extended, but that's probably what I would argue as a defense attorney.
how their relationship was quite complex.
Okay.
Talking about these freak-offs when she was first introduced to them, she says, "I was confused, nervous, but also loved him very much." She explained how Sean Combs ultimately controlled a lot of her life. She talked about blackmail materials, so videos that Combs purportedly shot of her during these sexual encounters. She was concerned that they would be published, they would be released. Quote, "He had many resources to do that." She was shown the 2016 video of that hallway attack, as I mentioned. She confirmed it was after a freak-off, which is important.
Sheesh.
Because while the defense would say this is an unfortunate incident of domestic violence, and domestic violence is not sex trafficking,
Okay.
she has confirmed that this was after a freak-off. This was in furtherance of sex
I need more information. What do you mean it was in furtherance of? But we need to be in court.
trafficking. She says she was afraid that if she said no to him, it would make him angry. So again, we're going to get more of her testimony in real time. So far, Rich, from
Okay.
what I've said, what are you taking away from her testimony?
Well, obviously, this is a horrendous relationship and she suffered a lot. I think the defense is arguing, in essence, that she was a consensual, willing participant in this relationship. It was a 10-year relationship. It had ups and downs, and the defense is arguing that
I need to go back and see what this jury makeup is. These facts are just, I don't know.
some of the things she argues now she was forced to do, she did willingly and perhaps even enjoyed at the time. So that's what we're getting at. But this is really shocking stuff for a jury to have to hear all of this. And I think see some of it is coming up.
Don't you think that there is a potential problem for the prosecution? Because we heard it. It was funny. We have a question from TDB. Jesse, does the male dancer's testimony about Cassie—
That's what, and this is my first time watching this, but that is definitely a good point for the defense to explore. If that first person is saying that I was hired by the alleged victim and the defendant in this case to perform for them, then I do not know that Cassie can in fact be viewed as, and I'm not saying she's not, but as these facts are coming out, or these allegations are coming out, I don't know, it does not exactly seem like her hands were completely clean either, but
contradict the prosecution's opening statement. Now, he had testified that he thought he heard Sean Combs slapping her, that there were instances where he saw him dragging her, but at the same time, he was getting paid by her. He was texting her. She was participating in these freak-offs. You wonder, this case is a thin line. Was it coercion or not? Was she a victim or partner in this? Do you think when you hear the testimony of that male dancer and you hear her testimony now, it'll be difficult for the jury to believe that everything was coerced and against her will?
I don't think the jury is going to believe that everything was coerced and against her will at the time, but it doesn't have to. There's a massive power imbalance here. So even if she willingly participated for parts of this relationship, he has all of the power and he's using it. And the one thing you mentioned, I wrote down, blackmail video. That stuff's really important to the case, right? This is carrot and stick territory, but he kept, allegedly, things like these videos to keep people in line. And the allegation here is if she sort of got a little bit antsy about how the relationship was going, he would threaten to release videos that would destroy any chance of her having a career.
The defense would say the only person that was in possession of the videos was Cassandra Ventura. That's a point that they made yesterday.
That's an evidentiary point. I don't know the answer to that.
Let me ask you this. We have a question from Lauren, who, by the way, has this cute little like emoji, like smiley face with the hearts. I like it. It's nice. I have a question. Do you think now that the prosecution has played their ace with Cassie, that they have more damning evidence to come?
I would expect so, because when you're prosecuting a case like this, you want to start strong. And I think some of the idea of putting her on in day 2 of this trial is to start strong. They put on a little corroborating testimony first, right, from this dancer, escort, whatever you want to call him, and now they have her, the security guard, and they get to show the video, that horrible video, and now she testifies. But it can't be the prosecution's plan to try this case that now they're just going to wind their way through some other inconsequential witnesses. I mean, they have 2 more victims, as I understand it.
Well, let's talk about this.
Apparently, the one victim or alleged victim disappeared. They're just nowhere to be found.
The reality is, they need to get her on the stand before she gives birth. Okay?
Well, that's true, too. That's true.
Okay.
Giving birth?
Practical
witnesses. I mean, they have 2 more victims, as I understand it.
Well, let's talk about this. The practical reality is, they need to get her on the stand before she gives birth. Okay.
Well, that's true too. That's true. Good point.
Yeah, because victim 3 is nowhere to be found. So they may have to make sure that victim 1 is still available. But also, I agree that they started very strong with corroborating evidence before they brought her on. Because what happened? When she filed her lawsuit in November of 2023, made these wild allegations, I think people said, how do we know this is true or not? As soon as that video was released by CNN, the whole game changed. Because people not only believed that particular incident in the complaint, they believed overall all the allegations that she made. And it seems the prosecution is doing just that. Now, it's interesting thinking about this. By the way, I'm going to give more updates about her testimony. So right now, Ventura said, I thought we were monogamous. The prosecutor asked, was it made public? No.
She thought they were monogamous even when she had performers and he was in a corner pleasuring himself. I
was his artist, also his family, his children, meaning their relationship wasn't public yet. Who was linked to him publicly?
His family's children, what?
Artist, also his family, his children, meaning their relationship wasn't public yet. Who was linked to him publicly? Kim Porter. Miss Ventura responds.
Oh, wait, at the time? Hold on.
Who was linked to him publicly? Kim Porter. Miss Ventura responds. How did Sean treat you at this time? We had fun. So a lot of this is...
Wait, so Kim was still alive at the time?
Talking about the beginnings of their relationship. And she has to concede some points, right? She can't just say, it was a disaster at the very beginning. I hated him from the very beginning. I was under a distress from the very beginning. There has to be an aspect to it where she explains, no, I started this relationship. I was young. I was excited, but then it devolved, right? In order to be credible on the stand about the story, I think.
I agree with that. And also to acknowledge that there were benefits to her of being in this relationship. It would, at least in theory, help her career. It would get her to meet people that she otherwise wouldn't have been able to meet. So all of that is true. There's nothing wrong with her conceding that, because none of that justifies being dragged down a hallway and beaten.
Exactly. And by the way, we jumped on here on air immediately as soon as we found out that Cassandra Ventura was officially taking the stand. And one thing that makes Law and Crime a little bit different than other outlets like that is our viewers, not only do we...
Listen to Jesse. He's about to talk some smack. He's about to talk. I talk a lot of smack too, but I don't know what he's about to say, but watch out now.
Value our viewers. But we are making content right now purely for our viewers on YouTube. We want to give you the most up-to-date information about this case in real time. And again, we are the only channel, the only news organization that is producing content for you specifically. We value that. YouTube is where the most hard cutting edge news is coming from. And we want to get it out to you as quickly as possible. So thank you so much to our supporters. We are going to continue to take your questions for a while now, because she's going to be on the stand. So let's keep it going. Again, thank you to our YouTube audience. Jane, are there any more witnesses to Cassie getting attacked by Diddy apart from the bodyguard? I mean, I don't know. I would imagine so.
Yeah, I don't know either. There's a videotape, so that's kind of a witness. But yes, I would imagine there are other witnesses who are going to talk about the relationship and probably talk about some of the physical stuff.
Well, they mentioned chiefs of staff. They mentioned a chef. They mentioned one of the questions from the defense yesterday was, how is this a conspiracy, right? For a conspiracy, you need two or more people to agree. Yeah. Who are the people that coordinated and facilitated this racketeering and sex trafficking operation are not criminally charged?
So I see two major hurdles for the prosecution in this case. One is what we've been talking about. They have to get past the idea that this is consensual behavior by other people who are behaving in a questionable fashion. They have to get past that. The second bigger hurdle to me is turning an abuse case into a racketeering case, right? Because yes, they have to prove RICO is very challenging. You have to prove a RICO enterprise. You have to prove a pattern of racketeering activity. You have to prove multiple predicate.
I do have, unless I close it, I had the indictment up here. Oh no, I'll have to find it again.
Violations of separate federal laws. It is hard to sustain a RICO case. We've seen some other cases where people have tried. That's going to be a major hurdle here.
Yeah.
The fact that he had this 10-year relationship, and even if it's arguably true, he took advantage of her. He treated her horribly.
Unless the prosecution is arguing that Diddy was in cahoots with Cassie to begin with. I'm just trying to place this with this supposed testimony from this first witness, right? The one that testified that he was being paid by both Cassie and Diddy. But that is a stretch.
Beat her, hey, did all these terrible things to her. That's not racketeering.
I say that the prosecution spent so much time yesterday in their opening statement trying to explain to this jury why it's a crime. Because it's not a garden variety trafficking or racketeering case. And I think the more they have to explain it, that's a problem for them. I think it's a weakness in their case, personally. Now we have an update from court. Prosecutor asked Cassandra Ventura, what was his lifestyle like? Ventura responds, he had all these assistants. He could get things done. He traveled quite a bit. And then apparently she's shown a photo and she says, this is Sean and I at a strip club in New York, like 2007, 2008, Halloween. How did Sean Combs' moods vary day to day? Now, look, he is charged with specific crimes that John.
That does not, I don't know, prosecutor. That does not. Maybe, again, I would have definitely loved to watch this in real time or on a recording, because the question and the response does not really tell us anything. Maybe the prosecution was getting it, I don't know, some element of the alleged crimes, but it's not. Okay, so what? He had assistants. He used to travel a lot. This is a picture of us at a club in New York. So what?
Smith on the street can't meet. There is an argument here, very powerful, had all these businesses, different resources, different employees. He would be in the position to be able to carry out a sex trafficking or racketeering operation. That's what makes him unique, though.
Sure.
I need more information than that. I don't know that it's sufficient for, again, maybe the prosecutor did get into it. I'm just basing what I'm saying.
But is that what he's doing?
It's-
Is he running an entertainment and fashion industry, or is he running essentially a criminal organization?
By the way, we have a poll up right now. You can participate in it. Do you think Cassie Ventura was a victim or partner in this? Ready for this? 82%. Well, this doesn't make sense. 82% say yes. I don't know if that's yes to, I think we need clarification. 82% say victim or partner. We'll get a clarification on that.
By the way,
right now.
but that's my answer to that question.
Oh,
Was
okay.
she a victim or a
82%
partner?
say victim. 82% say victim. Maybe based on we're reporting on the testimony right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think she is a victim if the allegations are true, but also she is involved in some of the criminal act. I mean, she's getting those.
I suppose
those prostitutes, right? She's making payments to them, allegedly. She's having them come. So she's involved in some of the alleged criminal activity. And that's an interesting point that wouldn't just apply to her. Other people in his orbit might be some combination of victim and co-conspirator.
But you know what? That video changes everything, because the argument would be, what do you think happens if she says no?
Yeah.
What do you think happens if she says, I'm not in the mood for a freak off tonight. I'm not going to pay the dancer. That's what's going to happen. That video is arguably the most important piece of evidence because it sets the stage when we're talking about coercion or force. Question from Angelina. How old was Cassie when they first started dating? I think she was 19 years old. So you're talking about a 17-year age difference. That's important. I think that's an important factor if you're talking about power and control, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that he's older and obviously has much more power. Or anyway.
Sherry Williams asks, what kind of time is Diddy facing if he's found guilty? Do you want me to? I have it listed unless you want me to answer that one.
I would say life in prison, but you can tell me specifically.
So this is exactly what he would be facing. So if he's convicted of one count of racketeering conspiracy, I pulled this up because I figured people might be curious. If he is convicted of racketeering conspiracy, the top charge, that is a maximum sentence of life in prison. You know what the minimum is for that? Well, okay, so that's life in prison. Maximum sentence for sex trafficking, life in prison. You know what the minimum is for sex trafficking? 15 years in prison. And then the transportation for purposes of prostitution carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. Rich, I have to tell you, I don't know about racketeering. I don't know about sex trafficking if he's going to be convicted of those. I am fairly confident he's going to be convicted of allegedly transporting sex workers with the intent that they engage in prostitution. Their argument, as far as I understood yesterday, their defense yesterday was he hired people for their time and experience.
Let me tell you something.
Was he hired people for their time and experience.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. If he gets out of this trial only convicted of transporting for prostitution, that is a defense victory. That they would take that in a heartbeat, I bet.
Because I think if he is convicted of that, he might not get 10 years. He might get, a shorter amount.
Oh my goodness.
And time.
Thank you, Benji. I've been talking this whole time and my mic is not. No, I do not know what happened to my mic. I don't know. Sometimes when I'm doing this, I'm usually laid up in bed. So if I move, then it disconnects my mic. But thank you. Thank you for I was talking the whole freaking time. I was talking the whole time.
Served
Thank you,
his
though.
time already in the MDC. I don't know, but it wouldn't be life in prison. Wouldn't be 15 years.
Yeah, he might not get full 10 years. He might not get the hardest prison term, the
Maybe
hardest
7,
prison
yeah.
life, right?
Yeah.
He would get out. He would still have a life. He would still have his enterprise. So I think that would actually be a defense victory, all things considered.
So we have an update from court. I think she's describing what the alleged abuse was like. She talks about anger, zoning out. She was asked, how did this impact you? She says, greatly. The next thing I knew, I was getting hit in the face. She also apparently talks about psychological abuse. He'd tell me to watch my mouth, change my face. So, I do wonder.
And
that has a strong impact, because there's another case that we're covering right now. It's the Alexander brothers, and they're being charged.
are these the millionaires out of New York City? If they are on trial, that means they got a really speedy trial.
With sex trafficking. And the argument you hear from defense attorneys is this is a very novel way to charge individuals. That if you're talking about romantic relationships or girlfriends or flings, and you're taking them on trips,
I'm sorry,
you're paying
Allie.
for their meals, you're buying them gifts, maybe you're promising things, romantic gestures. Are we now in a position where romantic relationships are just on the line of sex trafficking, or where does it differ?
Well, here he is allegedly bringing in prostitutes to participate in these freak-offs and paying them for sexual services. So that, to me, would clearly be sex trafficking if it's true. It's not just about the girlfriend. It's not just about the relationship. It's about these sex workers that
That is what I said in one of my pre-recorded videos. Because from the onset, the defense pretty much, they made it clear that these are disgruntled exes that are out to get Diddy. Unless he's saying that, unless they're going to argue that he was in a relationship with all of these individuals, or maybe it was just one polygamous relationship, maybe if that's their argument, maybe the jurors fall for that, right? But I don't know that Diddy can claim. I mean, he can certainly claim it, but I do not know that the defense can convince the jurors that he was in a relationship with all these people that were performing services.
is moving about.
We have a question from Trune. What about male victims? Seems like this case is solely based on women victims.
This case appears to be based on women victims. I mean, I've heard speculation too about male victims. I don't know where that stands.
Well, there's lawsuits. There's a lot of lawsuits that have been filed by male victims. And I wonder, do you think that was intentional for the prosecution to not include those in this case? I mean, why weren't minor victims? Let me say this. He has been accused in lawsuits of abusing minors. Okay. Allegations, accusations. Okay. Never been criminally charged. If you're the prosecution and you want a slam dunk case against Sean Combs, and you want justice for all of the alleged federal crimes he committed, the problem with the minor victim for a defendant like that is there's no consent defense anymore. Do you think it's like we want to be as specific as possible with these charges? We don't want to make this case overly broad. The bigger it becomes, the more risk it'll fall down.
Right.
Thoughts?
I don't buy that. I think the prosecution wanted as many victims as it could get, but I think the prosecution had to scrutinize every potential victim to, first of all, are they going to show up, right? We have an issue with one of the three, whether or not they're going to show up. So they had to scrutinize that. And also, how are their claims? How are they going to be on cross-examination? How is it going to play? They wanted multiple victims. The only way this case is what it is because there are multiple victims. This is not a RICO case if it's just what he did to one person, no matter how horrible it was. That doesn't get you to racketeering. So he needs them. They need the multiple victims.
And that brings up a good question I have. If you read the indictment, let me rephrase that. There's been many superseding indictments.
Yeah.
It says alleged victims, right? Alleged victim 1, 2, 3, 4. But then it says victims including, like victims, many victims, including alleged victim 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that mean we're going to hear other people who are not enumerated as one of the alleged victims, but are just other victims in the case? Because I don't.
It could be. They could bring people who are other victims in the case, especially the way the case is pled, the way the case is being tried. Now, they would have had to tell the defense by now who those potential witnesses are. And I assume, well, I don't know if we would have heard about it in this particular. Usually you would have heard about it. You would see it on the docket, but I don't know.
So talking about this alleged criminal enterprise and how, based on the opening statement from yesterday, he didn't just have staff who were helping him commit the crimes, but also covering them up. Just now, an update from court. Prosecutor asked Cassie Ventura, how would he keep tabs on you? To which she apparently responds, he didn't live far apart. Oh, we didn't live far apart. He'd send security to come find me or a trusted assistant. Like who? David James, Christina Coram, who we all know has been a central figure in this case. Maybe not the criminal case, but she's come up in lawsuits before. The prosecutor asks her, was your relationship exclusive? Ventura replies, no. If she's naming names like David James or Christina Coram, do they have to testify, you think?
I don't think they have to testify, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I would think this is all planned out.
Wait,
she's going
to. I thought when Jesse started off, were they monogamous or not? I don't know. Let's go back a little bit.
We all know has been a central figure in this case. Maybe not the criminal case, but she's come up in lawsuits before. The prosecutor asks her, was your relationship exclusive? Ventura replies, no. If she's naming names like David James or Christina Coram, do they have to testify, you think?
I don't think they have to testify, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I would think this is all planned out, that she's going to indicate some people and then the prosecution is going to bring them in later in the trial to verify, right? Okay. One thing you really want to do with a witness like this, the defense is going to say that she's embellishing. They might say she's lying, but that's going to be a little hard to do with that video, right? They can't just say she's a liar, but they're going to say she's exaggerating, she's embellishing, they're painting it a certain way because of the case. So you have to bring in these corroborating witnesses and whatever other corroborating evidence you have to verify what it is she's saying. So it would be very useful, for example, if she says, yes, David James came around to check on me on behalf of Mr. Combs, and then David James takes the stand and says, yes, I did that.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Yeah. Well, and yesterday they talked about the defense, her lawsuit in 2023, her attorney being in the courtroom, that she has an incentive, a monetary incentive to fabricate this situation. Got a question from Daniela. By the way, we're taking your questions on YouTube. This situation being in the courtroom about the defense.
Yes, I did that.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Well, and yesterday they talked about the defense, her lawsuit in 2023, her attorney being in the courtroom, that she has an incentive, a monetary incentive to fabricate this situation. Got a question from Daniela. By the way, we're taking your questions on YouTube. It makes me
wonder, every witness that they're going to call, is it somebody that's already suing Diddy? Because if it is, then, you know, maybe the defense has an argument. But again, I've said that in the Raleigh or ASAP Rocky trial, you know, victims are allowed to choose how they want to be made whole again. Okay. If they choose the civil route, it's their business. If they go the criminal case, that's their business. And sometimes the state or the federal government just drags you into court.
About this case, about Cassandra Ventura's testimony that's happening in real time. We're trying to update you as quickly as possible about what she says in that courtroom. No cameras in the courtroom. no audio in the courtroom. So this is the best we can do to bring you her testimony in real time. Question from Daniela, 3984, talking about the video. What version of the hotel video was played in the courtroom? Was it the sped up version? Now, I believe it was portions of the surveillance video, not the CNN video, and cell phone video that was taken by the security guard who testified, Israel Flores. He had apparently taken a cell phone video of the surveillance footage to show his wife, but that became a big pretrial.
Dang, people, listen. So he told the wife, and the wife went on to go tell other people. And this is, again, if we're just to kind of loop back to Kare Read here in terms of what people say to their significant others and even people that they're close to, here's a classic example with the security guard. Listen, if I witness something like that, I'm probably telling my sister. I'm telling something.
Issue about what the jury was going to see.
Yeah. And by the way, that story was a little odd. I took a video of it to show my wife. For what purpose? I mean, that was
because he's a human being. What do you mean? That's what human beings do. Under these circumstances, he has no way of duplicating the surveillance footage. So he's going to use his phone. He's a human being. That's to be expected. All right.
Was a little strange.
Well, you're not going to believe this happened, even though he didn't report it to the police.
I think it's going to be difficult. I think the defense would like you to believe that video has been doctored somehow, but I think they're going to have trouble sustaining that.
Hey, would you like a civil law question?
Yes, please.
Yes, this is our litigator here. Question from Teodora Bodurova. Can Cassie sue Diddy again if Diddy's found guilty as charged?
So, Cassie, if you remember, sued Diddy. And that was the first thing we really heard about this. That was before the video. There was this blockbuster lawsuit in November of 2023 that really put these allegations out there. And she was very detailed. In fact, the front page of her lawsuit had a trigger warning on it. It was so detailed. That case was settled the next day. And I would have to think that the settlement included an agreement that she wouldn't sue him.
Yeah, I think it would include a general release. I wouldn't say that that's the only way Diddy settles, but it tends to be otherwise. What incentive would Diddy or somebody in Diddy's position have to settle a lawsuit for millions of dollars if this person can turn around and sue them again? There's zero incentive. So I'd like to believe that he had a general release as part of the settlement.
Again, for anything, usually if you're going to settle like that and pay the kind of money she would have gotten paid for settling that lawsuit, you get what is known as a general release. Okay. And a general release means...
Listen, folks, I am not a pretend lawyer. All right. I think I'm definitely a real lawyer. Your points here, and I did not watch this. I did not have time to watch.
You don't sue me for anything that happened. Now, here's one caveat. Up to the date of this agreement. Up to the date of this agreement. So then if you the next day punch me in the face, I have a new law.
I suppose from a personal injury perspective, because in workers' compensation, let me think. No. I believe, let me think. I'm just thinking, what is this? Workers' compensation is obviously on my mind because we had to deal with this yesterday. We had a conditional settlement though. So some conditions have to be met before the settlement is actually final. Let me think. Okay, I can play the video while I'm thinking.
Lawsuit against you.
Yeah.
Right. But at least up to the agreement, she can't go back now and say, I want more money.
Well, for the same conduct, right? I mean, if he comes out and he did something to her or allegedly did something
I thought isn't Jesse an attorney?
After the agreement was signed.
Yeah. Presumably they got it. And it also, you have to make sure the release covers all of his companies, all of these other individuals who were involved. It has to be a general release of everybody, you don't want to leave any wiggle room to have a lawsuit.
Yeah.
We have a follow-up question to this from
And this
Faz.
is, I did not really have time to make a video on Shannon Sharp like I wanted to. I just read the stuff. I don't have time to edit, you guys. I try my best, but I don't have that kind of time. But every once in a while, I think about the Shannon Sharp lawsuit. Okay, I think about this offer of $10 million. And you guys will not believe it. Sometime last week, defense counsel and I were fighting over a penny. A penny, not a dollar, not a penny. That's what we're fighting about, okay? We wanted a penny more, and they did not want to pay a penny more. And so the Department of Labor had to get involved and try and settle, or try and resolve this issue over a penny. So just going back to Shannon Sharp, listen, a person in Shannon Sharp's position, a defendant, is highly, highly unlikely to settle a case if there's nothing there. And even when there's something there, they don't want to pay. All right. They don't want to pay. So I know what these videos are going to show, and the allegations of the R and everything else. But I do think about Shannon Sharp a lot. And even yesterday, it was a lawsuit. The case has been going on for like over 6 years. And even then, defense was clearly on the hook. They were clearly liable. And even under those circumstances, they did not want to give up any money. So I might have to revisit Shannon Sharp again.
So why did he settle if he was innocent?
Well, I mean, people settle all the time when they think they're not liable. People with the thing that really surprised me when that case was filed is that the case was filed. Typically in a case like that, you draft the complaint and you send it to the defendant and you say, "Dear sir, please pay me a boatload of money or I'm going to file this publicly in court. And if there's any merit to it, or if just for publicity reasons,
Wait, is that Eric Adams?
In court. And if there's any merit to it, or if just
am I tripping, or is that Eric?
For publicity reasons, the defendant decides to negotiate and pay, and it never goes to court.
Yeah.
So it fascinated me at the time.
Even with the Shannon Sharp case, I think the reason why the Busby and the Jane Doe, I think the reason why they decided to file a lawsuit while they were, in mediation is, for one, the large media deal that Shannon Sharp secured. And I think not the defendant, the plaintiff, or at least the attorney, thought that they could get more money. They think that they stand a chance of getting more money, so they decided to file suit.
Time that she actually filed that publicly, and he settled it the next day. That unfortunately was pretty telling, that he didn't put up any fight on the lawsuit. He didn't even want to litigate it. He didn't even want to go to discovery. He wanted to settle it immediately.
And if he would have settled it before she filed it, I think we would have been in a very different position than we are today.
Oh, I totally agree, because that lawsuit, I think, is what sets this ship sailing.
Right.
I agree. Okay, update from court. Prosecutor asks Cassandra Ventura, "Did you see other men?" Cassandra Ventura responds, "Yes."
Oh.
Prosecutor asks, "Did Sean see other women?" Ventura
Whoa.
responds,
Okay, so that's a different question. Did Sean see other women? I thought they were going to say, did Sean see other men? I don't know why I thought that, but that's what it sounded like.
"Yes." He said, "I am Puff Daddy. I was insanely jealous." "Did you move to LA with him?" "Yes. He wanted to be close to his kids who were there." Goes to a theme from yesterday, where the defense owned up and said, yeah, he's jealous, he's angry, he's violent. He engaged in domestic violence. That 2016 video is indefensible. When you hear her testify like that, Does it help the defense? Does it help the prosecution? Because the defense got in front of it. They didn't say he's a saint.
Well, it helps the prosecution, but the defense did the correct thing in
Right.
opening statement, and they had to do it.
Right.
They didn't have any
Forced to do it.
choice. I mean, the defense couldn't walk into this trial and say he's the victim of.
We're gonna go and look up who the lead defense attorney is, because I think it's Mark Agnifilo, but just looking at this, it probably would have made more sense to have a woman as the lead attorney on this.
Of a conspiracy to invent
Or
evidence
at least the face of the defense team.
against him. That was not.
I'm just thinking strategy. As far as trials go, most of the time it's, procedure, rules of evidence. Other times it's just strategy.
Never going to work. The thing's on video, and there's lots of other evidence. So they were going to have to say he is not a delightful guy. You people on the jury probably aren't going to like things that he did.
Right.
He did engage in things we consider
Karen. What is Karen in court?
domestic violence, but this is a racketeering case. And I liked that about the opening statement. They made that very clear. You're going to have to judge the crimes alleged here, not whether you like him or dislike him.
Okay. Hold on. Let's see. I should be taking my behind to bed, but let me quickly see, because I did not have a lot of time yesterday to go through everything that came out. Let's see. I just want to see what they've put out so far. All right, it's 15 minutes. 15 minutes really turns to 30 minutes for me. So probably, yeah, probably going to call it a night here. Okay. So I'm going to call it a night. You guys have a fantastic Wednesday. We will reconvene on Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then next week, we will pretty much try. I'll try going live in the morning before I go to work. So we'll take it from there. All right. Good night, Benji. Hopefully I was not rambling a little too much, because I just, I'm everywhere. Okay. But I'll see you guys on Thursday. Have a good night, and thanks for watching.